quite graphic.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will call the Common Council to order. I will ask the clerk to call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderperson Chaplewski.
Here.
Lysick.
Excused.
Me.
Here.
Probst.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
Sengstack.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Here.
9 present, 1 excused.
We have a quorum. Alderman Chaplewski will lead us in the pledge. I ask that after the pledge, we have a moment of silence for the victims yesterday in the shooting in Washington, D.C.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Move on to item D on our agendas. We have 2 items for public hearing this evening. I will ask the clerk to read item number 1.
A hearing on the special use permit for Our Town Thrift Store, a proposed secondhand article retail store to be located at 8104 West National Avenue.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you may recall, last spring we amended our zoning ordinance to allow thrift retail stores in C2 and above. On National Avenue on 8100 block, this occupancy used to be a suntanning place, is now vacant and being converted into Our Town Thrift. On the site, as noted in red here, is almost entirely covered by building. There really isn't any land for parking, although there's one space in the back where the owner will park their van. They're going to have the regular assortment of secondhand articles that will be for sale. And their hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday 10 to 4, and Sunday 11 to 4. As I noted in this historical area, there isn't any parking. Technically, 14 parking spaces would be required. The biggest issues that we have with the retail thrift stores is the impact that they have on the neighborhood, and particularly in front of their store. So we're prohibiting no dropping off of items during non-business hours. All dropping off has to be inside the property. No refuge will be stored outside or outdoor storage permitted. And they also have to monitor the litter daily just in case people do drop stuff off and it's not picked up. If they violate any of these provisions, the special use can be revoked. And with that, the Planning Commission recommended approval, and we've received no objections to date. If you have additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Do we have any questions or comments from the council on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Weigel.
John, you know we have a couple thrift stores in our community that take donations. And if I remember, most of them even have a sign in the window that says, don't drop off anything here. And yet we still see, especially Monday mornings in the summertime after rummage sale leftovers get left there. I just want to know exactly what our lever is going to be, you know, when this starts happening there. Do they get 3 strikes, they're out? Are we going to threaten to fine them? I understand we can pull their special use eventually. Now, we don't want to shut down a business, but is there some way that we can send the message to them absolutely, positively, that this drop-off stuff won't be tolerated?
The ultimate decision as to how often or how much variance will be given will be determined by members of the Common Council. When we see something outside there, we will immediately send a letter saying that's illegal to do. If it happens again, you're subject to revocation. If it happens again, we will send them another letter, and that's something that we're going to have to talk with the Common Council how you want to police that. because at that time, we could call them in for appearance before Safety Development Committee for a revocation hearing, and then you can decide how you want to handle it from that. But obviously, we will do all the enforcement that you request of us to do.
Well, and I understand from the business's point of view, they may not even be soliciting, and even if they put up a sign, I don't know if they would put up a sign that says, "We do not accept donations at all." Maybe that's the kind of thing they need to do, or video camera and get the license plate of the people who are essentially littering on the streets. I mean, I guess we might have some options there. I think I just want to make sure that this, I assume, is a new business. It's not another location for another business. I just want to make sure they understand how serious we are about this issue.
I think they recognize, and we've discussed with them, that we will revoke their license if they violate these terms or conditions. And we will recommend that you do if they do.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine?
Thank you, Alderman Weigel. Alderman Probst?
John, I'm going to echo a lot of what Marty said. Obviously, we're the representatives for this district, and I'm looking at National Avenue in that neighborhood. We're trying to bring in development across the street into that spot where the former Happy Hobby was. So, you have a great bank there, and the Pyramax Bank, and how they keep their property and how they've got that set up. We're looking for the new development to go in next door to the west, and I want to make sure that, for lack of a better description, that we don't run into the problems we're having at 76th and Lincoln, or we're having at 76th and Lincoln. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen here. We're, again, close to a residential neighborhood. It's at 82nd Street, 81st Street. You've got, people that are living there. I want to make sure that the standards are being upheld. Just because if we don't, it's a slippery slope towards a lot of problems in the future.
Our current procedures will be, upon first violation, send them a notice. Second one will be called them into the committee. Now, it's up to the committee to handle it from there.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman May?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Plan Commission meeting on this, and there are two things I wanted to ask you. The first one, the garage fill-in area in the back, there was some stipulation that they wanted that to be more decorative. Has that been resolved? And then the second question has to do with alley parking. I remember at our last council meeting, a citizen had come in and talked about alley parking, and I know it's a complaint I get frequently. I believe our ordinances state that if any part of the vehicle is projecting into the public right-of-way, it's not allowed to be on that alley. Is that parking area in the back for the van wide enough to accommodate the full width of the company van that they plan on parking back there?
Yeah, I do not believe there is a alley in the back there, so that's their property. I think it's probably an easement.
There is an alley there.
It's an alley.
There is an alley there. Right there.
There is an alley there.
And that is actually a very narrow alley.
That parking spot is on their property.
And then the garage fill-in, has that been resolved with staff?
That I'm unaware of. We can talk about that at recess.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Yeah, so you come up and give us your name and address, and please sign in either before or after your comments.
My name is Peter Weiss. I'm the owner of the thrift store. Just quickly, the commercial van that I have for our pickups of the donations will be parked in the alley, and the space that's in the back is plenty large to fit the vehicle. As far as the loading dock area, we've decided to replicate the T10 siding that's on the back of the building onto the loading dock, so you have conformity with the rear of the building, and it'll be painted in light colors.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will close public hearing number 1, and I will ask our clerk to read public hearing number 2.
A hearing on the special use permit for Poblaki Paving, a proposed asphalt paving facility to establish a maintenance building, construction office addition, and create an outdoor storage yard for their business operations at 423 South Curtis Road.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the 400 block of Curtis Road in the northwestern portion of the city is a former DOT emission center. as you can see by this photograph here. This building will be renovated, and there'll be some outdoor storage in the rear. Milwaukee Paving will be using it for a lot of repair their buildings. They'll be closing salt enclosed areas, as well as snow removal equipment and that sort of thing, as well as their regular operations. The hours of operations are 6 a.m. to 11, with a special exception for the demands of winter snow removal. 30 parking spaces are required and 55 are provided. The site will undergo some extensive landscaping, particularly along in the front, and then the current fence along the southern part of the property that goes back to the Industry for the Blind will also be redone with a 12-foot solid wood fence. The building structure will be significantly revised, creating a two-story effect here with clear windows and face brick upon the building. The Plan Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments from the council on this item?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Barzak.
John, the problems that we have, of course, we have another facility back there that's storing all kinds of aggregate and things like that, and the dust that comes from that. This, I believe, is also going to be uncovered piles. Is that correct?
No, the salt enclosed area will actually be in this kind of covered area, very similar to what the winter snow removal facility on 160.
So the only storage that's going to be done there is salt. There'll be no aggregate, there'll be no asphalt, there'll be nothing else stored there, open materials. It's strictly salt.
No, there'll be asphalt. There'll also be tanks full of asphalt, that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, in the, I guess in their form, but I'm talking about piles of rubble.
My bet is that there will be rock and stuff for their daily operations. Like we've got a representative of Poblaki that
well, this is the problem that we have with the other sites, and we may have with another site that's talking about possibly coming in, is that the main problems that we have, and it's not the enclosed part with the salt, it's strictly this aggregate that is spread all over the place and creates all the dust and creates all the problems. I know that the other location goes through great lengths of trying to water it. They attempt to keep the dust out as much as possible, but all you need to do is go up to any single car that's across the street, put your finger on that car, and it's thick with residue and dust within hours. This is just going to add to the problem, and then we have another one that's possibly coming. I mean, this is getting like ridiculous. The problem that I have, and I don't have a problem with the storage of the salt with the cover on it, I have the problem with the aggregate being uncovered, being stored, and then what is going to be the height of those piles, not to exceed the fence line, which I guess is 12 feet, because we had problems with the other one that says, well, it says that you can't see it, so if it goes higher than the fence, it's okay if you can't see it, and we get all this little litigation stuff going on. I just have problems with the storage of any kind of aggregate, any kind of asphalt that's in a raw form in piles. I don't care about the salt being covered. I don't have a problem with it. So.
Did you want to respond to that, or did you?
My name is Greg Breeden, and I'm a consultant for Poblaki.
I'm sorry.
I would wait till we're done with the alderman comments.
Okay. All right, we'll do the alderman's comments first, and then we'll go to the audience. So, Alderman May.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I also attended the Plan Commission that this was presented at. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing with MMSD and the underground water tanks that you're proposing. I hear they can store up to 100,000 gallons of water each. So that takes a little bit of the water burden off of downstream within the city in our sewer line. So thanks for that. The main concern I had coming out of the meeting was exactly what Gary just described. It had to do with the storage of materials. I understand we might see the tops of trucks and things like that. That doesn't bother me. It's the stone, the aggregate. They're going to be pallets, piled any higher than that 12 feet. I'd like to see that 12-foot limit, just like we would with a couple of the other users in the area. Thank you.
Thank Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other questions or comments from the council on this item? Okay. Now we'll go on to questions or comments from the audience, and I know we've got participation there. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, just to clarify.
Sorry, can we get a name and address quick, please?
Greg Breeden, South 46, West 25734, Shadow Ridge Drive in Waukesha. I'm a consultant for Poblocki. The neighboring property that is offering up all the dust is crushing. Their crushing facility is very high, gets it up there in the wind, lets it go. They are well above the 20-foot high fence. John has limited the material storage. He does bring material back to the yard and send it back out randomly. Offers him an ability to work later in evenings when banks and other facilities are closed. He can utilize that material that he brings back and do a job that would be difficult to do while the quarries are closed and the facility is closed. So hence the reason for the storage. The quantities are much less. He's limited it to 12 feet, keeping it below the fence. The salt storage, if we, in the summertime, he would like to be able to store dirt or gravel in the salt storage bin. Again, non-combustible, but contained. And the rest of it, all of the snow plowing equipment that we have stored off-site, it's not in West Allis at the time, is going to be transferred there sometime next summer. They're losing that lease, and that's going to fill that yard with equipment. Therefore, we're not going to have a lot of room for material storage with all this other equipment coming in. So you can see next to the salt storage bin being the top left of the yard where the arrow's pointing, two very small bins. I think they're 20 by 20 for stone or aggregate and topsoil. And that's what he's talking about using, nowhere near what the neighboring property has, which is essentially most of the property. So it's a much smaller site, or much smaller storage area. Also next to that is the sealing tanks. The sealer tanks are located on, is it Fairview right now? And we located them where we did because we won't be able to see them from the drive. If you're driving down Curtis and look at that 12-foot high fence, you might clip the tops of them, but nowhere near will you see the whole tank. From the industries of the blind, they'll be shielded by the salt storage bin. And if you're on the drive going into the industries of the blind, that road is much lower, so the 12-foot high fence will surely shield that direction. And Langer is the property on the top of the page, or I call it west. And they have similar equipment, cranes. They're not offended by our equipment, and likewise, we're not offended by their equipment. Piles of tires, that sort of thing.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments, any other questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will close public hearing number 2, and we will move on to item E on your agenda, citizen participation. This is a chance for residents to address the council on matters of interest to them. We ask that you limit your comments to approximately 5 minutes. Is there anybody who wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to item F on your agendas. Our standing committees will be meeting during recess, and those page numbers are on page 2 on your agendas. Move on to item G, the mayor's report. A couple of things. Last night, we had the beautification awards ceremony here at City Hall. We gave out awards to various homes, businesses in the city, as well as Best Porch Awards and the Most Patriotic Display Awards. And I want to thank the winners and commend them for their efforts on taking some extra pride in their property and really making several parts of the city look great. This coming Thursday, the 19th of September, is, I believe, the final art crawl in downtown West Allis. I'm getting nods from the bid district back there. Local artists from the area have been invited to showcase and sell their work on Greenfield Avenue from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock. The restaurants and taverns downtown will be open, as well as one of our newest businesses in the community, which just opened up, and that is the Urban Joe Cafe, located at 7028 West Greenfield Avenue. It's a new coffee shop and sandwich shop. They are open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they have very good soups and sandwiches and wraps and salads and paninis and bakery and a lot of caffeine. Lastly, on Monday, we swore in 4 new police officers for the West Allis Police Department, and I just want to congratulate these 4 new officers and wish them well as they continue on their careers with our police department. That concludes the mayor's report this evening. Do we have any alderpersons' reports? Okay, seeing none.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Sangstock.
At this time, Mayor Devine, move the approval of minutes of this common council for the city of West Allis for our meeting of September 3, 2013.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item J, I'll ask for a motion to place item 3 and 4 and 5 on file and refer 6, 7, and 8 to the city attorney for legal opinion.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Standing committee reports, we have none.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Sangstock.
At this time, Mayor Devine, I move that this common council for the city of West Allis stand on recess until the conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Vitale. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in recess.